Okay, we're going to welcome everybody here today, and we will go ahead and get started here. We have Mr. Melvin Hayden with us today, and this is such a treat because he's an expert in the area of trauma, and he's going to be speaking today about 13 reactions to trauma and crisis. Right now, with everything going on in the world, we're all experiencing a little bit of that, but certainly our students and our children are the ones that we're most concerned about right now. And Mr. Hayden should be able to give us some great advice about what we can do and what we can look for. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Melvin Hayden.
Good morning, everyone. I know that everyone is muted, so I'll go ahead and get started. The 13 reactions to trauma and crisis. I think we can all agree that we are in a crisis at the moment, but that doesn't have to be the end of the world. It actually is an opportunity for us to learn how to react in different ways to some of the things that I will talk about today to just help us better deal with what we're going through and how to get through it. It's not. It can be a traumatic experience. However, with the way that we'll learn through these 13 reactions to typical ways that I think that a lot of us are going through, especially with the teachers and with parents and even our children, for the most part, are going through some type of resistance that is maybe starting to affect them. For some states, they have been at a stay-at-home order for more than other states. And for some children, they have been at home and out of school, and with some of the reactions that we're getting from some of the states with school closing down for the remainder of the year, that does cause a little bit, sometimes can be a little bit more than just anxiety. One of the quotes that I like to use a lot of times when I'm talking with trauma and behavior is that I like to teach to communicate through the behavior so that the student does not act out to explain the problem. And one of my fail safes is that when I'm talking to a student and I'm constantly communicating with them, regardless of what the student is doing, I'm talking with them, through them, trying to get to understand what they are trying to explain, because a lot of times our students explain problems through their behavior. They expect us to understand them with a lot of the extra. And when I say extra, I mean a lot of the cursing and the throwing of things and the yelling and the walking out and things like that. So I try to teach my staff, as well as remember myself, that I want to communicate through what's going on so I can get down to the root of the problem. And it also helps to know what to expect after a terrifying event. And what we're going through is a very terrifying event. However, one of the things that when we're discussing about the brain, and that's prolonged exposure. And prolonged exposure, it just means that we are experiencing something that is going to that is not going to put us back on our regular scheduled program. We're not going back to the regular way that things were being done prior to the schools closing and the stores only allowing a minimum amount of people in, the face mask and the gloves. The longer that we deal with this, the more acceptable it becomes. And that has seemed to be the best treatment for any type of PTSD or any type of trauma, is that we learn how to deal with the status quo as it is right now. We're all at a stay-at-home order. And so how do we deal with that? How do we teach our kids how to deal with that? Parents and activities, we start to see how much or how little we spend time with our family and at home when we're in a prolonged situation that doesn't allow us to move freely or to move about as we normally would do. However, prolonged exposure does give us the opportunity not just to change the way we think about things, but to do different things that will allow us to be more effective at home with our kids and actually with ourselves as well. Um, One of the things, and as we get into this, we want to understand that re-experiencing the trauma does a lot in regards to replaying the memory. And the reason why I picked this particular little cartoon sketch, because it definitely gives us the five feelings that we have when we're going through something. And it also acknowledges the five feelings that we have when we're replaying a very traumatic experience. So there is some joy, there's some sadness, there's some fright involved, disgust, and anger when we're replaying memories. And all the memories that we'll replay are happening right now as we speak. However we talk to our kids, however we talk to each other, how do we deal with each other? How do we confide in each other? All the things that we're going through right now will replay back when all this is over. And when all this is over, those memories that we replay back will give us those 5 different, emotions that we'll feel about it. And so we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help our kids. We want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help ourselves. And we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help those that are around us when we start to talk about the memories of what this particular virus has done to the psyche of our friends and family and ourselves and our community and overall our nation. I can remember when I went through a very natural disaster about 15 plus years ago, going through Hurricane Katrina, and having survived that and having gotten through that, there are all those memories I feel, those emotional memories I feel, depending on what I'm thinking about and how it affected me. And so having based on that, I want people to know that, yeah, there will be some joy in there. There will be some sadness in there and some afraid, disgust, and some anger in there. However, how we talk to one another, how we teach our kids how to deal with those issues will allow us to help not just ourselves, our parents, our community, our family members, and those that are around us. We will have some insight on how to help with that because we're helping each other with understanding what we're going through. So those memories play like a loop. That's how our brain does. Our brain wants to figure out what's going on. Our brain wants to decide what is or is not, what's real, what's not real. And it repeats itself until it decides where the memory will go based on how we handle it. And that's the most important thing. It's how we handle the memories, the things that are going on now will be how we're able to handle it when it replays itself. Because after this is over, there's going to be a lot of conversations. There's going to be a lot of children that are going to be hurt behind it, a lot of children and parents and families that will have suffered losses behind it. And so how we deal with it right now will definitely help us how it's going to replay later on as we go through this. And there's always, always, always an emotional reaction to what we're going through. Number 2, that would be the fear and anxiety. And there's always a certain level of fear when you don't know the unknown, when there's something that's going on and we don't have all the information and we're constantly collecting facts and we're constantly collecting information that's going to help us deal with everything from day to day. So it makes perfect sense that we would be afraid after something scary happens. And that's okay. How we talk to our children about what those fears are. And we should be honest with ourselves and our children about how we handle the fear that we may have ourselves, because we as parents don't have all the answers. We as I work for a school. Our school system doesn't have all the answers. Our government doesn't have all the answers. But the facts that we do have allows us to subside some of the fear that's going on. In fact, like so many reactions, it's a sign that our nervous system is functioning as it should. Because without fear, we wouldn't know what to do or how to do it when things come up. And that does cause anxiety. And you may feel like fear is subsiding when something triggers a reminder of what we're going on later on. And that intense fear returns, but it returns as anxiety. So every time we don't want to get into a situation that from moving forward, that every time we get and every time we hear about somebody coughing or somebody sneezing or somebody is sick or somebody has a cold, we don't want to get into the anxiety of thinking that COVID-19 or the coronavirus has a part or will play a part in that moving forward. So those are some of the things that when it comes to fear and anxiety, the emotional reaction that we have, we don't want to change it to a point where our kids start treating other kids differently. Our staff start treating other people differently. We can definitely get into a situation where fear can overtake and anxiety can show up, and how we treat people moving forward when there's an emotional reaction to a crisis that we're continuously dealing with. And because in the way we handle our emotional reactions now, how we teach our children, how we teach ourselves, how we teach our community how to handle that now will definitely help moving forward, how we can better explain and better teach those emotional reactions so it doesn't give anybody any leeway to act out differently or use it as an excuse to act differently. And so the third one is one of the reactions is guilt. And I know guilt sounds like, wow, guilt is really, do we feel guilty during a time of crisis? And we do. We actually do feel guilty. It's strange that you would feel guilty because you can't help others that you know are going through it. There are cities and states that are giving out information that is very damaging to hear, and they're going through a lot, and they're asking for ventilators and masks and gloves and the things that are running out. And it is traumatic to know that you have things in your home that you can't share. It is traumatic to know that you have things at your fingertips that you can't give to someone else. And you may feel guilty about that. Even our children can feel guilty about not being able to help other family members or their friends that they're close to. And there's nothing wrong with feeling guilty, because that's human. We're all human, and we want to help, and we want to be able to give to those that are in need. And children look at it as how I did or did not contribute. And parents can look at it, or adults can look at it. Am I doing enough, or am I not doing it? Am I doing enough or not enough? So those feelings can conflict with how you feel about what's going on in the world, but how you feel about what's going on in your home. And I want you to know that there's nothing wrong with that. However, you can only control what you do and how you feel and what you're doing. So if you know that what you have in your home is just enough for your family and just enough for the people that subside where you do, then you don't have to feel guilty about not being able to do or to assist, as you would put it, because some people feel like we're in there's a money crisis going on right now, and sometimes we feel guilty because we don't have enough to help. We would like to donate or send things to other people, and then we look at it and it's like, wow, I really want to help, but I can't. So all those things are normal feelings, normal reactions to what a crisis is going to, and what you can do and how you can get past that, or look at it from a conventional sense. Is like, hey, you know what? I can only do what I can do. If there is something I can do, I can do it. But if there's nothing that we can do, don't allow guilt to creep in and damage how you feel about things, because guilt is a normal thing to feel. And somehow, how do you prevent that? With just knowing that you have done all that you can by wearing your mask, wearing your gloves, teaching your children to wear their masks, wearing their gloves, teaching the community to do the things that our president has already asked us to do, so that we can follow those guidelines. And by following the guidelines, that will allow us to feel not just better about what we're doing, but knowing that that's the way we contribute to this whole thing going on. And so we don't have to placate into feeling guilty about anything. Number 4 is feeling numb. And this is very, very important, only because feeling helpless sometimes, just like guilt, can have you feeling a certain way, because we can't actually fight what we're seeing. We can't beat it or break it. Sometimes when we have obstacles in life, we can see what it is and we can attack it. And when there's nothing to attack, there's no physical person there or no physical obstacle that we can pick up with our own bare hands and move it to know that we're doing something about it, it does give us a feeling of helplessness. Positive emotions escape us because we feel, a little bit under control or out of control. It's not within our DNA or our well-being to not be able to take action against something that is attacking us or changing our lifestyle. And when both our body and mind can't self-protect, the efforts can be overwhelming. And that's what feeling numb does. When we can't self-protect our efforts, when we're normally taking our body, we can physically move it, or we're taking our mind where we can psychologically think about it and put it, compartmentalize it and put it somewhere else, then we can, we feel vindicated. We feel that we can beat it. However, with the current situation that we're in, that renders us a little bit helpless, and we get that numb feeling like we can't do anything, and it becomes overwhelming. But what I want you to know is that, like I said before in the last slide, if we do the things, continue to keep doing the things that allow us to contribute to what's been asked of us, then we are doing just great. We don't have to feel numb, and we can feel like we're contributing to, decreasing the problem, or decreasing the amount of people that's being affected by this, or decreasing the amount of things that are coming at us. That is where that numb feeling starts to subside. And so we move on to number 5, where avoiding things related to the event. And this is so very important. When traumatic events wasn't caused directly by another person, how do you avoid things related to the event when the thing that's related to the event that we're going through right now is it's a medical situation? It's a disease. It has to be something that's carried in the body. How do you avoid yourself, or avoid the people that you care about, avoid the people that you love? Well, this is how that happens. When things related to avoiding things in events, sometimes we avoid people, places, and things, and that's true. And then we look for things to blame so that we don't have to be at those places. And those invoke feelings. So as you see on a little icon, I have a little icon that says anger, and one that says sadness, because those are the two most powerful things within us that tend to um, drive our emotions when it's something that we don't understand, or something that we really don't like. It affects us one way. It affects us one way extremely, or another way extremely. So we can be really sad about our kids can be really sad about not going to school, not interacting with their peers, or they can be really angry about not being able to graduate, not being able to have their family and friends see them march, because they spent all this time working so hard to get to this one thing. And so what they will tend to do is avoid those things, avoid school, because school may be the thing that they look at as being negative, because it somehow caused all of this, and they have to put a face on it. And so many of us have to put a face on something in order to deal with it. And how do we deal with that? Is by allowing, just not ourselves as parents, but allowing our kids to know that this was unavoidable. This situation, or what we're going through, the fear and the experiencing the pain, and the avoid the activity that's going on right now, these things were unavoidable because it is out of our control. So we want to teach them not to avoid the things that they may put a face on this virus in order to deal with it. So I'm constantly telling my daughter, who's in the 6th grade, to tell her that when it's time to go back to school, I let her know, I reassure her that everything will be done the way it's supposed to be done, that the officials at the school, the people in our community have done a great job to make sure that the building that you're going back to did not cause this event. Or the workplace that we're going back to did not cause this event. And we're going to take every and any precaution to make sure that where you're going, whereas to work or school, will be safe, will be safer than it was before we left, because now we know a little bit more about what we need to do and how we need to do it to make you feel safe and secure where you are, where you don't have to worry about what could, what should, or what might happen. However, changes in how you view the world and yourself, we all know, it's been said a million times, that the way we do things will be done differently moving forward. And there's a difficulty, and number 6 says a difficulty trusting people. And the reason why that's a reaction to trauma is because, like I said, just like we have to put a face on a building or a place or a thing that directs our emotional effects, we can also put that same, we can also project that same thing onto people. When we've been attacked, or it can be hard to know whom we can trust, especially if we're caught off guard. And this particular, what we're in right now, caught everybody off guard. This caught the whole world off guard, caught the United States off guard. There was one point in time where, it may not have been a big deal. It was like the flu. And then there was another point in time right where we are now, where this is serious and we need to take these precautions. And so that difficulty trusting people is because when you can't blame someone or identify a source, it becomes everybody. And unfortunately, not trusting the school or not trusting being in public in general is a very real thing for us all. We're wearing masks and we're wearing gloves out in the public. And there's, when we hear people cough, there's an extra, we're attuned a little bit more to somebody coughing or somebody, putting their hands on something or somebody sneezing. We are so hypersensitive to that right now that we're making sure that we're not a part of it, that we're making sure that, we're not doing it for ourselves. And that's really all you can do. But changes in how we view the world and how we view ourselves has a lot to do with trusting people moving forward. We want everybody from now on to, if they're sick or if they're coughing or if they're sneezing, we want that person to take precaution so that whatever it is that's going on with them, may it be the common cold, may it be a flu, may it be pollen in the air and they're reacting to their allergies. We want everybody from here on out to take precaution to make sure that no one is affected by what they may or may not be going to. And so we start suspecting everybody, feeling like, man, if this person, what if this person's coughing, or what if they're coughing in the air and the molecules in the air are traveling and I heard them on aisle 4 and I'm on aisle 5. Could it travel over the aisle or through the aisle to get on me and different things like that? We start coming up with all these different reasons to start being, to start having anxiety and start being fearful of places and things to go on. And that's exactly what we don't want to do. So if we have to trust ourselves first to know that if we take every precaution that we can to protect ourselves, that we can be okay. And we can also interject, information and truths to our friends and our family, our children, our community, wherever you may go, to give good information, positive information, and right information so that everybody, the general public, or at least the general public around you, can be more cautious of what they're doing. But we're entering into a new world. We're entering into a new phase of thinking about things, and it's not uncommon. We may all wall ourselves off from others to protect ourselves from time to time, and right now we're doing that. We're learning that. But as we come out of this, we'll be a lot better for it. Knowing that the difficulty in trusting people is not as bad as it seems, is that my trusting someone has more to do with how I respond and how I react than it does the other person. And if we take responsibility for that, we will definitely be okay. Believing the world is a dangerous place, extremely dangerous place. And that is a traumatic experience, because what we're going through right now does seem like the world is a very dangerous place. Grasping something you can believe. What do we believe in? We believe in the precautions that we're taking. We believe in what we're doing and how we're doing it. We believe in homeschool and that the computer, and we're using Zoom and we're using Microsoft Teams to get to our students. We're throughout the country, people are doing parade drive-bys, and buses everywhere are giving out packets of work and food to kids that are in need. So the virus does have a dangerous effect on how we think about it and how we see it and how we look at it. But as each passing day happens, we're becoming more equipped, more informed, and knowing how to do that. So the mind is like to see the world as a very dangerous place, and we can see that. Whereas we might have underestimated the danger in the world before the trauma, we might overestimate danger in the aftermath of trauma. And that's an extreme point. We do not want to under or overestimate what we're going through. We don't want to overestimate or underestimate what's going on in some of the cities in America that have extreme cases of what we're going through. And we don't want to underestimate it as well. And that's why we have to have a happy median of cautiousness. The belief system is shifted on how the world is viewed and how we view people. We definitely do not want to get into a situation where we start looking at everybody as if they could possibly be a carrier of this virus, whether now or in the aftermath of it when the world turns back to normal. When I use the word normal, I mean the world turns back to the way we know it, because we've changed it and we've rearranged it and we've made it better than it was before. And so online classes will be a lot better than they were before. Students missing work, hurricanes and tornadoes and natural disasters where schools are closed or are out, we'll have a better understanding of how to make that happen in the aftermath of what we're going through right now. We are resilient. We've always, the human race has always been resilient, and we've always been able to survive. And so in the midst of this crisis, we will survive this as well, because we'll know what to do, and we'll tweak some things and make them better. And even with believing that the world is extremely dangerous, after all, our most recent experience of the world is as a very threatening place, was the last traumatic experience we had, may have been the last hurricane or the last forest fire or the last tornado, depending on which side of the world you lived on, the last monsoon or mudslide or extreme weather. And because of those experiences, we've gotten better in how we handle them over time. And this right here will be no different. We're learning how to spend better family time. We're learning how to bring out those old board games and play those that we so long ago have forgotten. I'm learning right now how to play the Xbox, something that I've never played before in my life, but it has become something that I've added to my repertoire during this time, being able to play that with my kid and spend some time with her in that way. So thinking you should have handled the trauma very differently. Number 8 is you can only have the response you have. And what that means is that when everything happened all of a sudden, the way you responded was the way you knew how to respond. And now, as things are settling in and we're learning more and more about what we're going through, I mean, understand this, guys. We are literally changing our minds every 24 to 48 hours based on the information that we're getting. And we're constantly getting information as we speak. Yeah, oh, okay, so I have about 10 more minutes left of this. So we're constantly getting information as we speak. And because of that, you're handling things as they're coming, as they're coming. How about this? I got a solution for that. Sometimes shut it off, shut everything off. Give your brain a break to just go on the information you have. Give yourself a couple of hours to not hear about any updates or anything that's going on. Not if you have a parent or a loved one that is going through this right now and you can't do that, I understand that. That makes perfect sense. However, if you do have an opportunity to shut everything off and shut it down and just let your mind download, let it, kind of give it some space, some time to breathe before you come back to it, that helps with knowing how to handle things moving forward. And it doesn't have to be a rat race right at the very beginning. Please do not see yourself as weak or inadequate. It's very common for us to feel helpless when we can't help those that we love the most. And parents, it's very common to feel helpless when we can't help our children understand what's going on, or help our elderly family members understand what's going on, or help them, period. So what comes along with trauma-related beliefs are that we are critical of ourselves than we need to be. And we do not need to criticize ourselves for what we're doing. We do not need to criticize ourselves for how we're responding. Know that you've done everything that they've asked us to do based on the guidelines that we have. Know that you've done as much as you can with what you have, and everything, in all your power and all your might, for your children, for yourselves, and for your families. And so don't see yourself as weak or inadequate because you don't have anything. See yourself as strong and overcoming because you do have everything, because you are making the most out of what you have, and we're learning a different way to get through things. Number 10 is criticizing yourself for reactions to the trauma. It's kind of like the last one that I put. Don't do it. In addition, we do have a tendency to beat ourselves up and getting upset about what we can't do and why we can't do it. But criticizing ourselves will not get us anywhere. Talk to others who are going through the same thing, which is pretty much everybody in the world. So talk to others who are going through the same thing. Get different ideas from different people. Don't always listen to the same person, that's, you guys are cheerleading each other. Talk to someone different that may be doing something different or getting more out of the day than you are, and see what they're doing and how they're doing it. But don't criticize yourself for reaction to the trauma. Trauma happens in the twinkling of an eye, in the moment's notice, and it's a glimmer. It's fast, it's quick. And it doesn't always give us time to respond and react the way we want to. I want to think that I handled everything with the utmost importance and with super fast quickness, but I know I didn't. And so now that I'm learning more, I can do more. Now that I know better, I can do better at what I'm doing, and I can also help those that are not, maybe less fortunate, or may not have everything they need, because now I know how I can get a grip on it. And I do talk to other people. I do talk to other friends and other family members out of different states, in different states. I do talk to other friends and family members that are going through a little bit more than what I'm going through here in Georgia. My friends in Chicago, New York, and Texas, and Louisiana, and California, and different things like that. So we have that opportunity to talk to people outside of where we are, outside of our normalcy. Talk to those people and figure out what they're doing, because I can bet you're all feeling the same way, a little overwhelmed, a little underwhelmed, a little stir crazy at times. But the thing that helps us understand what we're going through and how we're going through is to make sure that number 10 is definitely something that we're not doing. Because when we talk to others and we're able to download and get different ideas, and they're able to pour into us some positive energy and things like that, you stop criticizing yourself for reactions, for the reaction that you had. You stop criticizing yourself for the way you think about what's going on in the world right now, and we can bounce back. You start to bounce back, starts to get some of those earlier slides that we talked about. You start getting back who you are, so that when we replay these memories, like slide 1 said, when the replay of memories start to happen, you'll have those memories as well as talking to others that have supported you and interject positivity into the situation, gave you new ideas and new things to do, as well as creating good memories behind this whole thing when we come out of it, and new ideas, new ways to teach, new ways to interact with our kids, new conversations to have with them, in those types of things. So number 11, seeing danger everywhere, was just like a little similar to the other slide, but hyperactive nervous system is when you are highly attuned to danger and is going to detect any possible threat. So your reactions, like I said before, you're only responsible for your reactions, and everyone handles their trauma differently. And criticizing emotions means talking with others outside your experience. That, once again, helps you holistically, and is uh, not in your box to do. So you might be startled by a movement out of the corner of your eye, and then you realize it's your own reflection. Seeing danger everywhere does not mean that every time we go outside, we see someone. I see a lot of people that don't wear masks and don't wear gloves. And if I was hyperactive to that particular thing, I probably would not go into that store. I see a lot of fast food places that don't wear gloves and don't wear masks. So if I was hyperactive to any of these things, I probably would not go there, or I would probably overreact to what I'm seeing. I do have to understand, like I said before, that if I take precaution, if I'm wearing my gloves, if I'm wearing my mask, then I'm not so much concerned about what others are doing, because maybe they see me and want to do the same thing, or they ask questions. A lot of people ask questions about where I got my mask or where I got my gloves, and I'm more than happy to tell them, because that lets me know, hey, maybe they're looking for what I already have on, so that they can take the same precautions. Slide number 12, difficulty sleeping. Yes, this is a very big part of what we're going through right now. Difficulty sleeping. I know that everybody has lost some type of sleep. I know I have lost some type of sleep, worrying about this, or trying to understand it, or what to do with it, or where to go with it. How do we get help to our kids, and how do our kids get help? As a dean of students and an educator myself, I'm constantly wanting to know how we're going to get through this with the school system. So at having gone through the first couple of weeks of this, and we have a plan, and working that plan, and making sure that that plan is in place, and we're doing our conference call with our kids and Zoom meetings, and we're calling them to keep up on updates and different things like that, and everything we can possibly do, we're making sure that happens. That helps me sleep at night, helps me understand that I'm doing everything I can in the time frame that I can do it. As far as my kids are concerned, making sure that they understand the things that I have. If I don't have an answer, I'm telling you guys, if I don't have an answer for them, I tell them I don't have an answer, but we'll find one together. Or I'll say, you know what? I don't have an answer for that. But I think the best thing for us to do is to continue to keep doing what we're doing. And if you guys have some anxiety about that, let me know so that we can talk about it and we can get over it together so that we understand what's going on. There's a lot of things that our kids are learning through YouTube and TikTok and Facebook and Instagram and all the other social media places because their friends are on and their friends are telling them what their parents are saying or what they heard or what somebody else said. So just make sure that we're making sure that they get a good night's sleep by dispelling some of the things that they hear. And if it's nonsense, just say it's flat out nonsense, and move in another direction. And the hyperarousal, and that's us trying to concentrate. And I talk. Well, the biggest thing with hyperarousal is to make sure that my kids are not displaying any risky or impulsive behavior. We've seen that through the kids coughing on the groceries at the store. We've seen an uptick in breaking in houses or cars or things like that. So we've seen an uptick in a lot of different things that have gone on in our neighborhoods and in our communities. And so we want to make sure that we're talking to our kids. Now, if you're a teacher, a parent, talk to your kids, through the portal, through your school portal. If you're a parent, talk to your kids, at home and let them know that things like this does not solve the problem and it doesn't help us. We need to continue to experience the trauma that we're going through together so that we can talk about it, we can deal with it, we can make sense of it. And so when we come out of this, we'll have better feelings about it, better memories about it, better understanding about it, and we can all get through this together. If you don't see this as a trauma, you should. And these are the reasons why you should see this as a trauma. It's important to keep in mind that everyone's reaction is different. So we're not, sold on or have to buy into how people are talking about it.